We're Jenna and Jeremy, travelers, creators, and digital nomads.
We've made some crazy life choices that have led to some of the most fulfilling years of our lives, and we're thrilled to share it with you.
Follow our adventures as we explore more of this incredible planet Earth.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and you can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Quench Your Adventure. Now on to the good stuff.
The burning question, Amalfi Coast or Cinque Terre? As backpacking digital nomads, we were fortunate enough to spend 40 days in Italy and got to visit both places, but we know this is not realistic for most people, and these two destinations are actually about 8 to 10 hours apart. Deciding where to spend your long-awaited vacation comes with its challenges, but we hope that our honest reviews and ratings will help you decide where to go. By the way, we also have an Italy Top 10 video that you should check out before making any big decisions. First category, access. What does it actually take to reach each destination?
FYI, the only place in Italy where we had our own vehicle was during our camper van rental in the Dolomites of northern Italy. Thanks to the sophisticated train and bus system, having a car is not always better in Italy. And if you're looking for detailed information about how to get from point A to point B, Google Maps is helpful, but Rome to Rio is also a pretty user-friendly resource. Cinque Terre refers to the 5 villages that are within minutes of each other along the coast, and we stayed in Rio Maggiore and managed to visit all 5 of them, plus a nearby bonus location. To visit Cinque Terre, your closest international airport is in Pisa, around an hour and a half by train, with a transfer connection in La Spezia, costing maybe $25 one way. You also have the Florence International Airport at maybe 3 hours by train, with 1, probably 2 connections. And the Milan International Airport at closer to 5 hours by train, with probably 1 to 2 connections. That's 3 international airports to choose from, with pretty easy, affordable train travel, giving Cinque Terre an 8 out of 10 in access.
Here's what you'll need to consider. Might your itinerary include other regions as well? Could you do a one-way flight to Milan and fly out of Pisa or Florence? We chose to skip Milan, but it could be very high on your list, and you could combine that with visiting the lake region, some big mountains, and then make your way down to the coast. Maybe even continue to Tuscany and enjoy places like Pisa, San Gimignano, Siena, and Florence.
Moving on to the Amalfi Coast, which includes 13 towns and villages, we stayed in Positano, which seems to get most of the attention, and the only other village we visited is Amalfi, so a little less expertise here compared to Cinque Terre, but the amount of time spent in each was the same with 3 nights. To visit Positano, your closest international airport is in Naples, around 3 hours by train and or bus. To get to Amalfi, there appears to be a direct bus line taking an hour and 50 minutes, costing around $22 each way. And the ticket costs to reach everywhere I've mentioned so far all seem to fall between, say, $10 and $40, so comparable enough. And there's also the Rome International Airport at maybe 4 to 6.5 hours, depending on the transportation method. Those are decent options, giving Amalfi Coast a 7 out of 10 in access.
Again, consider where else you might want to go. Maybe you fly into Rome, see the Colosseum, head to Naples for some pizza, authentic Italian city vibes, a couple days exploring the incredible Isle of Capri, over to the Amalfi Coast, and then maybe a one-way flight out of Naples. Just be mindful of the transit times and try not to pack too much into the trip, especially if it's only 7 to 10 days.
Next category, climate. I like to simply Google insert destination monthly temps. Looking at Cinque Terre in the north, let's first zero in on the warmest months, July and August, with an average high of 83 degrees and low around 69 degrees. When we visited in early October, the average high was 69 and the low of 56. Regarding rainfall, the summer months are also the driest, and it does increase significantly in October, but we were lucky to stay dry. On to Positano, looking at July and August first, highs around 92 and lows around 77. When we went in late October, it was around 77 on the high end and down to 65. And pretty much the same story with the increasing likelihood of rain, but not yet the rainy season.
Comparing the two destinations, you're likely to be nearly 10 degrees warmer in Positano. What does that mean for you? Are you there to hike? Maybe you would prefer the slightly cooler temperatures in Cinque Terre and you don't mind a chillier swim. Or are you there to sunbathe and swim? If so, the Amalfi Coast is going to be the better bet, and there are more beaches to choose from there.
Due to the subjectivity and personal choice here, I'm not going to rate the climate, but hopefully you now have a better understanding of the difference.
With that, let's segue into things to do, beginning with heading to the beach.
First, it should be noted that if you're really after a tropical sandy beach vacation, Italy is not really the place. That said, if you're in Cinque Terre, the only real beach is in the northernmost village, Monterosso, Outside of that, you just have rocky outcroppings along the coast where you may be able to get some sun and go for a swim. We'll give Cinque Terre a 6 out of 10 on beaches. In Positano, you do have a large beach with tons of umbrellas you can pay to lay under, and there are plenty more beaches in the area to explore, so we'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Hiking. Cinque Terre is more compact, and hiking from town to town is a huge draw. You do have to mind the trail closures that are the result of landslides. Summer 2024 is when they're supposed to open more of the Path of Love trail. I hiked from Corniglia to Vernazza and also did a big hike from Rio Maggiore south to the bonus location I mentioned, Porto Venere. This was epic and I loved it. I'm sure the trails get pretty packed in the summer, but I'm giving hiking in Cinque Terre a 9 out of 10. In Positano, it's a bigger region. We decided to bus to Amalfi and then another bus to Bomarano, where we began the Path of the Gods hike, which brings you back to Positano. The views were outstanding. Goats on the trail, rocks to play around on, and we really enjoyed it despite the logistics it took to do it. All trails shows tons of other trails to explore, and I'll give Amalfi Coast an 8 out of 10 on hiking.
Let's talk about general sightseeing, starting in Cinque Terre. Most likely, you're going to want to visit each of the 5 villages. We definitely recommend that, and thanks to the train that connects them all, this is extremely easy to do. You could even do it in a day, but we do encourage you to slow down and try to make the most of it. Each town has its own vibe, and we actually made an entire video about the pros and cons of each, especially about figuring out where to stay. So if you want, check that one out.
In Monterosso, we saw this beautiful statue on the beach. In Vernazza, walking the jetty allows you to look back at arguably the most aesthetically pleasing village among the 5, plus views up to the 1,000-year-old hilltop castle. In Corniglia, you're higher and have incredible views of the buildings stacked up the mountainside and down over the Ligurian Sea. In Manarola, you have arguably the best spot to watch sunset as the village lights up with the dropping sun. And in Rio Maggiore, you have plenty to look at with the rocky coastline and narrow walkways to explore. You can pretty much always find an old Catholic church to admire and take a minute for some quiet time. And if you're looking to shop, there are plenty of places, with Monterosso likely having the best selections due to the volume of visitors. I'm giving Cinque Terre a 9 out of 10 in sightseeing because it's just effortless here as long as you can see through the crowd.
Moving on to sightseeing along the Amalfi Coast.
Positano is worthy of the hype it gets simply because of how cool it looks. Seriously, you have huge mountains with bright buildings stacked all the way up. Jenna and I kept looking at each other thinking, wow, people live here? The big church is definitely worth admiring, and you also have a beautiful church right in the center of Amalfi. Positano also has some really cool old fortresses and ruins along the coast, and it's fun to just wander around and check out all the little things. I'm giving the Amalfi Coast an 8 out of 10 in sightseeing.
Next category, which we've hinted at a lot already, is getting around.
Cinque Terre only stretches around 7 miles, and the ability to hop on an affordable train to quickly traverse the coast and visit so many fascinating villages cannot be overstated. And if all the hiking trails are open and you can visit in September or October when it's not so crowded, it's a 9.5 out of 10, with the only drawback for some being that the elevation in the steps mean that you do have to put in the effort on your feet. And the Amalfi Coast region is simply much larger at maybe 25 miles across, and without a train connecting each town, you have to hop on a bus or ferry, which is not as convenient, leading me to rate it as a 6 out of 10.
Next category, pricing.
Overall, Cinque Terre is more affordable than the Amalfi Coast. The food options are generally a bit more casual and budget-friendly, but of course you'll find high-end restaurants as well. We spent about $72 per night for a decent place fairly close to the center of town. We'll rate Cinque Terre's pricing at an 8 out of 10. On the Amalfi Coast, high season is crazy. Places are fully booked, prices are high. We mostly ate cheap and cooked some of our own meals, but if you want fancy restaurants, you can definitely find them. There are high-end hotels costing well over $1,000 nightly, but in mid-October, we spent about $90 a night to stay pretty high up. This did include a pull-out couch for our friend to sleep on that came with us for this part of our trip. We'll rate Amalfi Coast pricing at a 7 out of 10.
Before we check out our ratings spreadsheet, just a reminder, if you've enjoyed the video, hit that like button, leave a comment or some feedback if you have it, and guys, please subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more travel videos. Here we have a simple spreadsheet with each destination, the list of categories, and the ratings.
At the bottom, the total average rating, we have Cinque Terre coming in at an 8.25 out of 10, and the Amalfi Coast at a 7.25 out of 10.
Again, guys, a lot of this is subjective, but based on what we like, we would recommend Cinque Terre over the Amalfi Coast, but we also really loved exploring the Dolomites and Venice, which are actually closer to Cinque Terre than the Amalfi Coast is. So it's a nice way to potentially group things together to make a nice trip. I hope the video helps you out, and I wish you all the very best on your travels. See you in the next video.